Hey, how's it going? So this is going to be another news episode. In fact, I think I'm going to start calling these FOMO news. What do you think? FOMO news. Kind of going to try to embrace the FOMO and the FOMO Cobra as a nickname? Maybe? Perhaps? I don't know. Sounds good to me. Regardless, this is another episode of FOMO News, and I do want to talk about something that I don't think has really ever been discussed all too much. Now, what could that be? Well, it's pretty simple. Remember back when all those articles a few years ago started coming out about how Ford and GM were coming together on this new 10-speed automatic, and everyone's like, oh, that's crazy. Why are they working together? Blah, 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 Chevy this and Ford that, and you know, it was like everyone got all heated up and like, oh, 10 speed's too much, blah, whatever. It just, you remember that. What you may not remember, and I remember very clearly, is something that some articles had mentioned. Now, for whatever reason, I can't find an article that mentions it, but I remember specifically what it said, and which is why I'm making this video. So if you look right here, we have an article from Car and Driver. This was dated September 6th, something like that. You know what? I can't see because I'm blind, even wearing my glasses. Oh, look, that's a 5. So, September 5th, 2016. This is going over when the news started coming out about this transmission. Okay, so, you know, it goes on and says how, you know, the F-150 is going to come out with it, and the, you know, Camaro ZL1's going to use it, and then the new Ford Raptor is going to use it, and all this stuff. And then it has a little tidbit in the middle here. Let's see, where was it? Oh, the companies are also jointly developing a 9-speed transverse automatic for front-wheel drive cars and crossovers, which GM is leading the engineering on. And Ford had led the engineering on the 10-speed. Well, you know, this is actually not something new. Ford and GM have been sharing parts for a very long time, whether people knew that or not. In fact, in the SHO I have, the transmission is basically a GM design. So, you know, it is what it is. If it works, I don't really care. Now, the only thing I care about is the purest part of it all when you are doing engine swaps in different cars. You know, that's where I get all worked up. But regardless of the fact, they came together and worked on these transmissions. Well, I remember an article specifically saying at one point that aside from the transmissions, there were also another project they were jointly developing together, right? But it was another project that General Motors had taken the lead on. Now I'm thinking to myself, what could it be? You know, and then there was rumors it was some sort of powertrain. I'm like, well, what could they be doing? You know, or is Ford helping them create, you know, an engine that's going to like take out all of Ford's performance cars? Like, what are they doing here? What are they really trying to do? And then it kind of came more obvious what that may be. Let me pull up a new article here about the new lovely C8 Corvette. As you can see here, we have another Car and Driver article. This one was done this year, April 20th, 2020. And it says, C8 Chevrolet Corvette Z06 will have 600 plus horsepower and a Ferrari-like shriek from a naturally aspirated 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8. Well, when these articles first started coming out, that really got the gears turning. Flat crank V8. Well, the only domestic American manufacturer that has only one single engine in production that utilizes a flat plane crank is, of course, Ford, and that is the GT350 Voodoo engine, 5.2 liter, which, you know, is an awesome engine in its own. So now I'm like, well, of course, GM could definitely design their own engine, but then I remember the last time they tried to do a dual overhead cam design. Remember the North Star V8? Yeah, that was not a good one. And that was the last time you ever saw an overhead cam V8 from GM in a production car. So it really has me wondering if Ford is really helping them with designing this new 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8, which is a dual overhead cam engine for the C6 Corvette. It really has me wondering. Because, of course, they could do it by themselves. But we're in this era of automotive history where all these manufacturers are coming together and they're collaborating. They're doing these joint effort builds and designs, sharing technology. They're sharing platforms. And while it seems so strange, honestly, we are also living in a golden age of cars, especially performance cars, because everyone, instead of just sticking to themselves and trying to win everyone, just trying to screw everyone over, they're all helping each other out, sharing their technologies and their advancements and stuff, and they're creating more powerful, more safe, more efficient cars that are so much more faster than anything we would have imagined, 10, 15 years ago. And a lot of that's because they're doing these joint efforts, I do believe. Which comes down to, I do believe Ford is doing something with GM, aiding them in a design of this new engine, this new power plant for the Z06. Now, I'm not entirely sure. Of course, this is just my opinion. It's my speculation. I don't have any actual sources. Maybe there are some out there. I really don't know. But this is just something I've always had in my mind ever since this kind of came out. When Ford and GM first started coming out with the 10 speeds, and that was mentioned that they're also working on something another thing for GM that's, that Ford is assisting with. And then once all this started coming out about these dual overhead cam V8s for the C8, I'm like, well, GM does not have a good track record with it. They have to have help somewhere along the line. And who better than Ford, from an American auto manufacturer, one that already partnered with in creating powertrain components, i.e. the 10-speed transmission, the 9-speed, what have you, who better than Ford to help aid in the assistance design of a high-performance dual overhead cam V8 flat plane crank nonetheless? Who better than Ford? They've pretty much, they've been producing overhead cam engines since the early 90s. So it's really no surprise that if this does come out publicly and that is announced, it would be no surprise to me because of just, when you connect all the dots, it makes sense. But once again, it is all just speculation from me, and this is just my take on all the information. Now, we'll see. We'll have to see. I don't know. Maybe it is 100% GM designed. There was no input from Ford whatsoever, and that'll be awesome. I hope it's a great engine. It sounds, to me, for the C8 and for like the type of car it is, like it's supposed to be like this affordable exotic car. It's definitely got the exotic look. It needs to have the exotic power plant. And for me, that is a huge plus. I'm so glad that they even decided to come out with such a thing. A high revving V8. For me, I'm all about it. That's why I have the SVT Cobra. It ain't like Shelby GT350 territory. It's pretty much there with a stock Coyote in terms of where it revs. But I love high revving, naturally aspirated engines. And then, and that's why for me, the GT350 is pinnacle of any Mustang that's ever come out. I would love one so bad. And it is. It's in the pipeline of things I want. But, obviously I can't have that right now because there's a little thing called money. And, well, I don't have much of that. But it'd be cool to see what happens here. And if it's indeed a collaboration between Ford and GM. Alright, so that is it for this episode of FOMO News. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Put a comment down there. If you have any insight to any of this, I'd be curious to know. And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family. And if you want to see more content like this, then go ahead, subscribe to the channel, and keep a lookout for the next video.